Welcome to Next Level Humanity, Masters Unplugged. I have a dear guest here, Dr. Rodrigo Montenegro. Welcome, Rodrigo.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah,
it's a pleasure
thanks
to be
for
here
coming.
to meet you.
Yeah, same. And as I told you, my favorite topics, neuroscience, human psychology, human brain, and you dedicated your life to understanding the human brain and sleep cycle. What interesting, the science of sleep. What an interesting topic. So what I'm going to first ask you, of course, is what first drew you to neuroscience, which is a very, of course, popular topic now, but it wasn't, you know?
No, it wasn't. And what really led me to become interested in neuroscience and sleep medicine, which it's part of my curriculum I studied at Oxford, was my own experience, right? And I was interested in non-ordinary states of sleep. And this led me to be very curious about it and very inquisitive about those states. And the funny thing is that at the time when I was studying initially psychology, I started studying psychology. What happened is that I was going to see my tutor, my professor of psychophysiology, and that instructor, the professor, with standing, and I was asking him, "Oh, do you know about lucid dreaming, the ability to become lucid in dreams?" And he said to me, "No, that doesn't exist. That's impossible to achieve." And then I was like, these guys know nothing about this. And the fact is, to be honest, not willing to boost myself here too much, is that
but it sounds spiritual. It's like first, but it's still there is a science behind it.
It's both, right?
Yes.
We can see this as having a spiritual characteristic, but of course at the time there wasn't much knowledge about it. But even when I was talking to this professor about the studies that were done at Stanford by researcher like well-known researcher like Stephen Laberge, he was saying he was so mind bent into the fact that this was impossible, that this stimulated even more my curiosity. And also I knew it was possible because I had experienced it.
Yeah. What was your first experiences? Very interesting. Like, I think because every experience like this is kind of like a calling, and it kind of like, it was like, clearly, obviously it was a calling for you. What was your experience?
Well, I had many different experiences, right? But one experience I had when I was 5 years old, right? And I was flying, above my bed and going through, the stairways. And the funny thing is that in the morning when I told my mom, "Listen, Mom, I was there. I was flying. I went through the wall."
Yeah.
She said, "No, you were dreaming," because she saw me, going to the wall that morning. Because I thought in my mind
I can do this,
that I went through the wall because the wall opened, because I was aware that I was lucid, right? And she saw me, touching the wall and saying, and looking to see if there was, an opening. And my mom was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Mom, there is an opening here. I went there yesterday night." I couldn't make the difference between what was reality and what was not, which you normally do when you are lucid dreaming. But my mom then said to me, "Oh, this is a dream. Don't worry. It doesn't exist. It's not there." Right? So that was my first.
Because I did experience lucid dreaming myself as well. What do you think is the difference between just normal dreaming and lucid dreaming?
So from a neuroscientific perspective, we know now what are the difference. One of the main characterized, difference is that when you are in a lucid dreaming, you have a part of the brain called the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex that is active. So this is an area of the brain that is associated with your working memory. So that, for example, when you are thinking about something...
Yeah, deep thinking.
No, like, for example, plant. It's a plant. It's not a medusa, right?
Okay.
So that what you are seeing is related to something that is a plant. And so you are not afraid. When you are not lucid dreaming, this area of the brain tends to be much less active. So you don't have access to knowledge. If you see a frog, it's a frog. You cannot be afraid of it because it's just a frog.
And it's a dream.
But
in lucid dreaming, it's more real.
In lucid dream, you are aware of that condition. What you are saying, you have access to the knowledge, information about things, that a plant is a plant and not a medusa, or a frog is a frog and not something dangerous,
Yeah.
something you are scared of.
Yeah.
And this is really one of the different. There are other types of difference, like you have more what is called metacognition, the ability to perceive that you are thinking. Metacognition is when you are aware of yourself. So right now, I know that I'm talking to you, that I'm aware of my own thoughts.
Yeah.
So that's what metacognition. So I'm aware of being aware. And so that's one of the characteristics. So
Okay.
this is associated sometimes with, the parietal lobe, this area here on the top of the brain, where we see also more activity during lucid dreaming.
Interesting. I mean, the way I had is I saw myself, for example, one time many years ago, I was out of the building.
Yeah.
And then I was on the street, just flying over the street.
Yeah.
And I saw a burglar near my car.
Yeah.
And then the incident really happened. The next morning, I saw that my car was broken into. And so it's like I literally, during sleep, I literally was outside on the street, seeing the burglar, seeing the theft, everything.
Yeah.
And then I wake up in the morning and my car is broken in. So it's like it
that's
is happening.
Absolutely. No, and the thing is that when you study this, you see that there are so many instances of this happening.
Yeah.
Those, for example, I have a friend of mine that did a study on precognitive dream just now. And what we see is that we have this ability, this extended ability that we don't understand, that is associated with consciousness, something inside of us that has this capacity of seeing. But also there is another state that is the out-body state, that sometimes where you perceive really yourself as if you are out of the body. And this is a little bit different from the lucid dreaming. Generally, this is when you have the flying. And those are, really interesting type of, non-ordinary state, are not studied today.
Very interesting.
In sleep, in sleep neuroscience hardly looks into those states, but they are really interesting.
So when you look back, it was your own experience that you dived into this this topic. As you began studying sleep, what surprised you the most about how little we truly understand about our bodies and minds?
So a lot of things surprised me, but mostly I would say, when I was, studying at Oxford, there were two things that were really at the forefront of that astonishment. First of all was the fact that there was a very, very big gap between what we knew in terms of neuroscience, technologies, for example, that we can, use with, our technology, in gamma wave technology. We develop, technologies to fulfill that gap, make available those technologies. So there was a very big gap between what we knew was possible, what we know is possible, and what is accessed by the general public. And the second thing, and that was really interesting, is that a lot of the tools that we were using were not so precise. I can give you an example. For example, someone that suffers from insomnia, right? So a doctor will prescribe the person benzodiazepine or non-benzodiazepine, the Z drugs. But really, we are treating the symptoms with those drugs. So those drugs act and
the cause isn't being treated.
The cause isn't treated. So the symptom is being treated. The person cannot sleep. Let's give him an hypnotic, and that will help him sleep. But really, the cause is not. So there was always and has been a certain gap in terms of in sleep medicine about how we treat it. And the go-to in our pharmacopoeia today, and for a long time, less today, but for a long time, was always to use drugs that were not really treating the cause, the subjacent cause, which is hyperactive brain, anxiety. And we know today that of course you can treat insomnia up to a certain point based on certain consideration with psychology. But sometimes insomnia is just stress, is just hyperactive brain.
Hyperactive brain.
And that's what we try to do with the cerebro, the headband that we have developed, because it helps you unwind. It helps you, the cerebro, the system helps modulate the brain to reduce the hyperactivity. It can even tell you when your brain is super active or too active for you to sleep. It would say to you, no, listen, wake up. just breathe a little bit,
Okay,
do a
you're
shit.
not ready.
You're not ready. It's
Interesting.
not the best moment
Interesting.
for you to sleep, because if the brain is super active, the best thing is for you to learn how to relax. And so, it can give you cues, about when it's the best moment for you to go
Let's
to
talk
sleep.
more about the products.
Yeah,
Let's talk
sure.
about like the technology behind it, and yeah, the product. I want to
Shall
learn
I
more about.
shall I show
Yes,
it
I would love to. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah. So need
Yeah,
to
I
be
have
careful.
seen some products, but not
Mhm.
similar about neuro like
S-
they use in meditation and stuff.
Yeah.
Wow,
So this is
amazing
our little
product.
baby, right? And so the idea is that you put this, when you're going to
Okay,
sleep,
going
and
to
then it
sleep and like this.
stimulates. It's
Yeah,
the other way
this.
around, yeah.
Yeah,
So
like
no,
this.
the other way around. So
Ah,
it's like,
like
let me
this.
show. Yeah,
Okay,
and
like
the
you put
other
it
the
like
other
this.
side as well. So this is a
Yeah,
yes, like that,
yeah, like that.
exactly.
Interesting,
So
very
basically,
interesting.
you just put it like this, right?
Okay.
And you go
Uh-huh.
to sleep. And basically, what it does is that it will, measure your brain activity, and it will as well, while measuring it,
Mm-hmm.
stimulate the brain based on what you need. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say that, is because you have different options. Let's say, for example, you want the device to help you sleep faster.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the option, you put the option there that it will modulate the brain to
Mm-hmm.
try to increase certain brain waves
Mm-hmm.
that we know are associated with the sleep
Mm-hmm.
onset, so that it pushes you specifically when you are stressed. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not a clinical device, it's important to know that, but it's something for people, general population, the consumer market. Okay, it's a wellness system that will help you, really, when you're stressed.
Okay.
And we all have
Well,
been there,
and it's
right?
much better than sleeping pills because of many
Exactly,
reasons. Yeah.
because all those drugs, generally they are
Yeah.
addictive, and they're also
Yeah.
negative for the brain.
Yeah.
You know that long-term use of benzodiazepine, and now, maybe a little bit less for non-benzodiazepine,
Mm-hmm.
but there are still,
Yeah.
negative impact. We don't have any of this in
Yeah.
with using those systems, right?
Yeah.
And so this is only one of the characteristic of the
Mm-hmm.
device. The other one
Mm-hmm.
that I think is even more interesting,
Mm-hmm.
of course, depending on the need of the person, is that we can increase deep sleep, right? So
Okay.
this system here, when you are using it, basically what it does is that it allows us to increase up to 40% the depth of your sleep, of deep sleep,
Yeah,
right?
that means you
Exactly.
rest well, and yeah.
So that deep sleep is super important in sleep. It's
Mm-hmm.
one of the most
Mm-hmm.
important aspects of sleep, and so often overseen, because people don't
Yeah, it's
have
awesome.
ways to measure this. For example, we know now there are some studies with, the Apple Watch are really bad measuring deep sleep. Half of the time, they are confusing deep sleep in the Apple Watch with light sleep. It's not a big problem, generally
Yeah,
speaking,
but
but it
again, having deep sleep is something else. It's
yeah, exactly. It doesn't give you the assessment that you need to
yeah,
be able to measure accurately what are one of the most important aspects of
yeah,
sleep, right?
yeah.
And so with
It
cerebral
does.
here, we are achieving a PSG level. So
Mm-hmm.
PSG means polysomnographic standard.
Mm-hmm.
So normally
Mm-hmm.
that's the golden standard
Mm-hmm.
when we measure
Mm-hmm.
sleep. The different sleep stages are
Mm-hmm.
measured with polysomnography, and with that system we are achieving about 80% of
Wow.
coherent measurement, right?
Okay.
We still need to do more. We still need
Sure.
to do more
Sure.
studies on it, sleep
Sure.
laboratory study.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, what is interesting there is that the second aspect is that we have the ability to increase the depth of deep sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And we think that this has many,
Yes.
possible outcomes, health outcomes,
Yeah.
specifically for the brain. In terms of brain health, this is super important because it's a moment where the brain is clearing certain proteins like tau proteins or
Mm-hmm.
amyloid proteins that are building up when we get old and that lead to Alzheimer.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to do in the future some, clinical studies to
Mm-hmm.
see if that increase can stimulate the clearance
Okay.
of these
Okay.
proteins. And the third thing is what we were discussing about the
Yeah,
possibility
of lucid
lucid dreaming.
dreaming.
Yeah,
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 lucid
yeah.
dreaming. So before I move on to the next question, I would love to learn more about the company, co-founders, founders. When did you build the product? When did you build the company? Is it a UK company? So where are you with the product? Where are you with the customers? So just an overview of.
So we have been building the product for
Mhm.
5 years, right?
Okay, and are you alone? Do you have
No, no. So
co-founders?
we have, I have a co-founder that is the
Okay.
CTO, and he's engineer.
Okay.
He's an expert into med tech,
Okay.
techs. And so we work mostly together. We
Mm-hmm.
have two professors. There are neuroscientists at universities. They
Mm-hmm.
are part of, the scientific board
Okay.
that help
Mm-hmm.
us when we need
Mm-hmm.
them, right? So we have this background. We have a person that is one of these professor in
Mm-hmm.
Malta University, is a specialist in PPG, one of the system
Mm-hmm.
that we
Mm-hmm.
use here. And so we had, before this year, we have a device that were much more complex, that had the ability to do much more things
Mm-hmm.
like measure meditative
Yeah.
states. And so we decided to de-risk a little bit the system
Mm-hmm.
because it was complex, and complex mean more costly. So
Yes,
this we
sure.
can
That's
sell.
simpler.
It's simpler, and we can sell at a good
Okay.
price for a
Okay.
crowdfunding
Okay.
platform,
Yeah.
right? And so we decided. I decided specifically to redesign the whole system,
Mm-hmm.
to build in a much more
Okay.
simple system that would be, efficient,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time much less
Okay.
expensive.
If people wanted to buy it, where would they find it?
So at the present moment, they cannot buy it because we
Okay.
are pre-crowdfunding,
Okay.
but we
Okay.
are, having people registering in our
Now you
website.
have the first product and you're
Yes,
like
and
ready
and
to
and
launch.
and
Okay.
and, so since end of September, we started the pre-crowdfunding campaign
Okay.
where we are, looking at people that are
Mm-hmm.
interested. And so we had since end of September until mid of November. Now we stopped the
Mm-hmm.
pre-crowdfunding campaign. We had 1,600 people
Mm-hmm.
registering in our website. So,
Wow.
a
Amazing.
very
Great.
big,
Yeah. Great.
acknowledgement of,
Yeah.
this need. People are
Yeah, it's a
interested,
big market.
and
Sleeping
it's a
with a big
super big
market.
market. And
Super big
but
market.
it's
Yeah.
also a really a confirmation that we
Yeah.
are in the right track,
Yeah.
that we are in the
Yeah.
right path, because of course our customer are the most important people here.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and so in very short time, in 1 month and a half, we had 1,600, more than 200 people put deposit to get access, early access to the
Mm-hmm.
lowest price. So if you are interested,
Yeah.
you just go to the
Yeah.
web page. It's a
Just let's tell the webpage.
g-wave.tech.com. And
G
so
dash
dash
dash wave
wavetech.com.
tech.com.
And so
Okay.
you will find there our Cerebro. You just put your name. You just need to put your name, and if you are
Yeah.
interested, you can put a deposit as well.
Yeah.
And so,
Amazing.
and we are launching the crowdfunding by beginning of March, end of February, beginning of March.
Okay. Great. Good. Good. And we'll speak anyway about that. So, sleep medicine reveals the hidden architecture of human functioning, and you know that better than me. What do you consider the most profound truth about sleep that people underestimate?
So I think, as we were talking about, I think one of the biggest and most important aspect of sleep is deep sleep, in my opinion,
Deep sleep.
because this is where the magic happens,
Yeah,
I would
we
say.
regenerate and we.
Exactly. It has so many
Yeah,
important aspects,
yeah,
right? So it regenerates, it has effect on your immunity,
yeah,
it clear all those waste
yeah,
byproducts of brain activity. But also there is something that you touch upon that is quite right, is the fact that the deeper the sleep, the more restful you become.
yeah.
So the brain
Mm.
acts like a kind of engine, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
you are driving for 5 hours in the motorway at high speed, the engine starts to heat up.
Yeah,
But that engine needs to rest. That's deep sleep.
yeah,
And so the deeper the deep sleep, the more prone the brain will be to perform at high level
yeah,
of performance.
yeah.
And so that's what's super interesting. And so in the small test, we did, of course, tests with, groups. And what we see is that even when you are in the sleep lab, with a lot of higher and, electrodes, and, you don't sleep well. But
Yeah,
people were saying to us, well, hold on a second. I didn't sleep so well because, of course, you have those
yeah.
electrodes. We are testing the device with
Mm-hmm.
polysomnographic equipment. They have belts, they have
Mm-hmm.
different electrodes. It's not the most agreeable,
Yeah.
way to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But they were saying that with this system, they were sleeping less and more, but better.
Yeah, better.
So,
Yeah,
so
resting more.
so resting more, exactly. So
Mm-hmm.
of course we don't recommend, that's not the objective of the
Yeah,
company, for
yeah,
people to sleep less. We don't want.
yeah,
But we think we can optimize the sleep,
yeah.
specifically in moments where you need the most. You don't need to use the device all the time. let's say, for example, that night, that specific night, you know you're going to sleep a little bit less. Use it, right? Because
Okay.
then you
Yeah.
can
And you can use it every day as well.
and you can use it every day.
Yeah.
Because the whole idea is that it will gather information about your sleep habits. You know what's missing in a lot of the systems today is that they miss the behavioral component. Here, with the applications that we are building, you are going to be able to input your behavior. So, how much caffeine you are taking, if you are in a situation where you were angered, if you are taking some medicine, if you have, your period coming, or
Okay.
all those kind of things you can input. And then the system will analyze all this and say, hey, by the way, every time you take caffeine, your deep sleep, we know this is an effect, your deep sleep will affect. But sometimes this effect is much more true for someone.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. My mom, she drinks coffee at 10 o'clock at night.
My mom as well.
And she's not affected.
Mine as well.
If I
Same.
drink coffee at 10
Same.
o'clock,
If
I'm
I
going to
drink
sleep.
coffee after 12 p.m., no way. I'm gone.
Yes.
Night.
Me, it's like 3:30. So it's
12
my threshold.
p.m. My threshold is 12 p.m.
And so you will be able to input this into the system, and has a component, a behavioral component, and that the system will analyze over time.
Okay.
And tell you, hey, look,
Okay.
every time you do this, you had a bad sleep.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, got it. And will it maybe the whole frequency and everything, will it change eventually according to individuals, or it's the same?
Well,
wire?
I mean, would you mean the brain waves?
Yeah.
When we talk about the brain has habits,
Yeah.
right? There is something that is called predictive coding. So it means that your habits are set in the brain in a way that it does lead you to have a setting, a behavioral setting.
Yeah, it learns.
It learns, but
all body parts,
but
it has
it's a
behavioral.
little bit more than this. So that the system acts like a prediction, a
Okay.
coding machine
Okay.
that you have coded in a certain way,
Okay.
and so it will react more or less
Okay.
automatically,
Okay.
specifically for people who are less aware. Because I don't like in the theory of predictive coding, they say, oh, the brain is acting like this. No, the brain is not acting like this all the time. The brain acts like this when you're not aware, when you're not self-aware. Because if you are self-aware of your intent, your emotion, your awareness, and you are present with yourself, of course there is less predictive coding in the brain. But this is the thing in regards to your question, is that if we teach someone to lucid dream, right, and the brain starts to have this mechanism entrained into the system, maybe you will be able for yourself to achieve that state more easily, which is for me great. I mean, if you're not affected by it, because some people wake up as well in with lucid dream, that's again something that is not really what we want, because the system is really gentle into setting, and you can also set the tone of what you want. Things that are more hard, that are going to wake you up more to the lucid dream, or things that are very gentle, so that you don't wake up in the middle of the night with the lucid dreaming. Because sometimes, for me, for example, when I'm starting to dream, and I say, oh, I'm dreaming, and then I wake up. Instead of starting to lucid dreaming, I wake up, right?
Okay.
But so sometimes you need just some cues, and that's the system can do this, or something more strong. But the fact is that maybe it's going to be that condition of training the brain, and then the brain does what it does, is that it learns to behave in a certain way. And the same maybe for deep sleep. We don't know really. We don't know if we were stimulating all the time deep sleep. Will the brain achieve a deeper state of deep sleep just by habit? We don't know.
We don't know. What I'm actually wondering is, what patterns have you observed in modern society that most disrupt our neurological health, and why?
That's a very interesting question. I think that one of the things that are for me really important in this day and age is the scrolling habit, social media habit, right? People are obsessed with it. People are all the time in their phone. You see couples,
especially the young generation.
The young generation, but even people who are older. I mean, you see people in the restaurant. You go to the restaurant, you have a couple that are like not talking. They are on the phone. It's like, that's not a relationship. No. That's not a way. I mean, you put the telephone aside and you have a relationship. But I think that this pattern is addictive. We know it's addictive. It's also creating.
I mean, it's not even addictive. It's like the social media platforms want it to be addictive. It's like I have,
Absolutely. And we
yeah,
know it
yeah,
affects your dopamine.
yeah.
You know it affects your reward centers. And so people become slowly entangled into this. They have needs that are not met by this scrolling because it's empty. It's not real life.
Yeah, it's
It's
not.
not something that is fulfilling, right? And so I think this is something that is really a pattern that leads you to be stressful because you are
Only
success.
two of your senses is involved.
Yeah,
You're not
and
involved with
also
your five
it's a
senses.
good tool. We need. I'm not against
Yeah,
social media. It's important, but we need to be aware of the impact that it has on ourselves.
yeah.
Specifically, if we are over consuming it, if we
Mm.
are addicted to it, or if we show patterns where we are like waking up in the morning and the first thing we do is
Yeah,
that. Those are the things we need to break. We need to be able to also, step back and
step
enjoy,
back. Yeah.
life.
So
And
that's one of the most,
yeah, I think so
yeah,
because it leads to bad behavioral patterns. We
yeah,
know another thing that it does is that it creates a short span of attention because we are all the time scrolling, 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 scrolling.
yeah.
I've seen, I
I
remember,
I
I've
mean,
done,
ADD, ADHD instantly,
yes,
of
yeah,
course.
and but I was like, I don't remember when it was now, but I was having a trip by bus,
Mhm.
and it was just don't recall where it was, but the fact is that I was watching this young person next to me the whole trip for 1 hour. The guy was like scrolling like this, and I
Yeah,
said, "Gosh, how is that
yeah,
possible?
yeah.
How is this?"
It's too much.
And so it creates a condition where people are not able to have a
To stay
long to
focused.
stay
Yeah,
focused for a long period.
yeah, I agree.
It's
And it's creating a huge amount of anxiety, and you
exactly,
feel it in
exactly,
people, and
yeah.
it's like,
And
it's,
people then they cannot sleep. They go
yeah,
to bed and then they scroll, and
yeah,
then
can't sleep.
it
And now
has.
you have more customers.
I hope so, but I certainly don't wish
Yeah,
them that.
yes, sure,
I
sure, yeah.
wish them to come
Sleeping,
with.
sleeping has become a disorder.
Yeah, actually,
Sleeping
this is something
disorders is a,
interesting. We could even have the system tap into
yeah,
the phone to
yeah,
see if it's scrolling or not, and say to the
yeah,
person,
say,
"I will like turn it off,"
turn it off, yeah.
Just a
Yeah, I
thought.
mean, we wouldn't have a sleeping disorder if we didn't have
There,
the social media and phones
there's
anyway.
yeah,
That's my idea.
specifically in the young
That's my
generation,
idea.
they're off
They're
about
with
this.
their phones until 10
Yes,
p.m.
yeah,
So how
yeah,
can you
yeah,
sleep?
yeah,
So you work at the intersection of science and public well-being.
yeah.
What do you feel is your larger purpose as a sleep specialist and a neuroscientist, especially with this project?
Well, I think the idea of sleep has been a fundamental right of human beings. We
Mm.
have to take ownership of the potential of sleep, and I think that our societies in the past, as a species, we have evolved into the exploration of life, and it's good, and it's. But I think that there is a lot to explore in
Yes.
sleep, and I think that the most important thing in terms of the mission of gamma wave technologies, our company, is really to bring tools for people to become healthier in terms of their sleep habit, but also help them achieve a higher performance in
Hmm.
terms of what their brain can achieve. I think we are in a society that
Yeah,
under.
gamma is the most balanced state. So it's like,
Well, I don't think necessarily that we can achieve high levels of gamma waves, which are really interesting in terms
hmm,
of brain waves, because gamma waves, they connect different areas of
yeah,
the brain.
yeah.
They allow you to make association of ideas.
Hmm.
It's associated with consciousness. But sometimes the brain needs to be idle.
Yeah, sure,
Sometimes to
sure.
be, a little
Yeah,
bit, letting go. But
yeah.
I think that the idea behind gamma wave technology is to give tools, the tools that we know in neuroscience work to achieve, better performance. Better sleeping
Yeah,
means better
better
performance. Better
perform
performance means
means better focus
better
and
focus, but
being
also
calm and
happiness. You
sunniness.
are
Yeah,
able to do
yeah,
things. You are able to be in a state of flow, right? And
yeah,
so sleep is fundamental,
yeah.
for all
So
those things.
important. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you see the future of sleep medicine and sleep tech evolving?
I think one of the greatest potential that we have today with gamma wave technologies is really to develop tools for brain pathologies like
Mm.
Alzheimer's, or and certainly test
Mm-hmm.
if we could use that increased level of deep sleep to help people clear those, tau and amyloid proteins so that people can prevent, brain diseases, brain, pathologies. And so that's one of the things that I think is really interesting if we could achieve this. Of course, this means, clinical trial,
it's kind of like it can change many things.
it can change that. It can certainly, I would say, prevent. We know that there are studies that shows that people who have increased deep sleep, increased depth of deep sleep, not necessarily amount of deep sleep, depth is more important, they are able to clear better those tau and amyloid proteins. So the question is, if we enhance, and we don't know this, but if we enhance, can we achieve the same? And we think so, but we need to test, of course. But I think that if we show this, then that becomes something that can be used to prevent, degeneration of the brain, and that's super important in life where we live longer. Where Alzheimer is one of the biggest, problem for elderly people. It's one of the most, prevalent type of pathology in elderly people. And so hopefully we can do this.
I agree. Yeah, lovely. What a great purpose.
Yeah, we hope so.
Let's go to more personal questions. What has studying sleep taught you about consciousness and about being human?
I think if coming, when you talk about sleep, of course, there are so many things that we don't understand and we need to study and research. But there was something that is quite interesting. Freud said that, dreams were, the direct pathway to understanding our desire, our unconscious desire. But I think sleep dream and sleep, generally speaking, can achieve, something that is remarkable, which is paradoxical in itself, which is to find yourself, who you are, to allow yourself to meet a reality of yourself that is much more close to who you really are as a consciousness. And I think that one of the things that I have learned through my experience is that we have the potential to use sleep in a way that leads us to this kind of awakening. And I think that I have, certainly learned that this is possible, that people can awake there without having the disruptions of sleep that we can have, because sleep, lucid dreaming can disrupt sleep, but sometimes is so stimulating. The experience is so incredible. And look, I mean, I have had experience where I wake up at 6 o'clock. I need 8 hours, 8 hours and a half of sleep. But sometimes when I have those experiences, I'm so buzzed. I'm so alive. I'm invigorated that I don't need to sleep. I believe that there are, certain impact in the serotonin and certain types of serotonin. We have, different receptors. We have 14, 15, receptors of the serotonin, and some of them, they regulate the sleep cycle, right? So how much time you have when you go to sleep. And I think that for this to happen, for you to have this kind of uptake, of feeling so alive and so invigorated and not need sleep and function well, because I know very well when I sleep like 6 hours and a half, like I did this night, for example, my brain is less performant. But when I have those experiences, I don't need to have so much.
I understand.
So much sleep, right?
I have had the same experience. It's kind of like, I think we need to understand that our sleep patterns is maybe mirroring where we are in life and where we are in our brain.
Yeah. I agree.
So what does unplugged mean to you? A more personal question, besides all this, neurology, everything, like neurologically and emotionally and spiritually.
I think unplugged for me means going out of the how can I put it, the social norms, patterns, the indoctrination, the psychological manipulation that life does to you to find, your happiness in so many different forms that are not associated with you. And so for me, being unplugged is a little bit like the matrix is opening up to your real self, finding your true purpose. But being yourself doesn't necessarily mean being yourself has a person, Rodrigo, and moment of time is really finding your core self,
Core.
who you really are inside of yourself, not what society made you become, not with, the values of society, not seeking, attention, not seeking to be the best, but seeking things that make you full, that make you right, finding the right values for you, for your true self, and being coherent with this. And I think that's what is
deeply understanding yourself.
Yes. And really, finding yourself a little bit like when we have those states, in sleep, in dream states, where we find ourselves in a state of consciousness that is wonderful, that is, really, and that for me is that reality that is expressed sometimes in those, non-ordinary states of sleep, that sometimes are associated with non-dual state or oceanic feeling, where you are part of life, where you feel that love. This is the true self, and I think that's the potential also of sleep.
Have you found out with research and like why that happens and when that happens, like that?
Well,
amazing moments when we, like, neurologically speaking.
Neurologically speaking, there are some, characteristics that we know are associated with those states, non-dual states. So,
and can we also call those states like kind of like an awakening state?
Yes, but this is even more than awakening. You can have an awakening about, a reality of life, about your life mission, let's say, about what you want to do.
But this is more kind of like expansion.
Life is like almost like an expansion, and generally those are associated with what we call the default mode network. The default mode network is an area of the brain where the ego lies, where I do things. For example, I want to do something, I touch here, I do. This is the default mode network that is saying Rodrigo needs to do this. But it seems that in certain state of sleep or other state in meditation as well, you have this, you can bypass. There's a reduction of the activity of that default mode network, and that leads you to have a more non-dual.
You can go beyond the ego.
Exactly. So that is the thing, and I think that's one of the potential as well of lucid dreaming, because the Tibetans, they used to use that state to try to achieve that state. So they used to use lucid dreaming to achieve that awakening in sleep.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that. That's very interesting. Being a meditation teacher myself, that's lovely. So what are you currently unlearning with all your expertise and experience about the mind, health, and also your own identity and your mission and who you are?
So I think, when you are in a mission, because I think, life is about this mission, what you came to bring to humanity. And I believe this has a fundamental, belief in my life. I think you have also to think about a little bit of yourself, because I am a person that likes to give, that likes to, give a lot, I'm always, there. But sometimes I forgot that I also need, to take care of myself. And I think people who are ambitious, who have those goals, who have a mission to give something to humanity, sometimes they are so wired, they are so focused on that they forgot that they need a little bit of time for themselves. You need sometimes to tap yourself on in the back and say, you did well, And
and also taking care of yourself, because you need yourself to fulfill that mission.
And you are the center of the piece of that mission, right?
Great message.
Not in terms of an egocentric way, but just in terms of respecting yourself, right?
Last question. So we're almost there. It was a lovely conversation, Rodrigo. I enjoyed it very much. I learned a lot from you, and I love the project. I know I kind of like know how big the market is, because sleeping is a huge problem.
Absolutely.
Thanks to, we talked social media and all the scrolling, but
Thanks,
what to do?
Mark Zuckerberg and the like.
Yes. Here's another market. One last question, finally. If you could share one message with the world about sleep, brain, human potential, what would that be?
I think that's the idea that I was touching upon earlier, to say that it's the last frontier. We have only scratched the surface of what sleep can achieve for humanity. And I think that it's paradoxical, right? I mean, not so long ago, 100 years ago, if you would talk to a doctor, you say, oh, this is a state of, where there is nothing. There is no. We thought, at certain moment that there was no activity.
Yeah.
REM state, the state where we sleep, was only discovered in 1953.
Yes, crazy, huh?
Right?
Yeah.
But this is the thing. I think that despite all our achievements, our knowledge of life, sleep medicine has only 75 years old of existence. And I think that we are going to learn a lot more about our consciousness, about
Sleep.
through understanding sleep, but mostly the non-ordinary states of sleep. So I think that we will find that we can find ourselves as extraordinary beings when we achieve those states, when we are in sleep. And I think that the awakening of humanity will come from that, from those aspects.
I have heard many individuals, meditation teachers, speak about like the matrix. You go beyond.
Yes. Yeah.
To a more real world during sleep, and this is kind of like the five senses world, which is the illusion, and then you go back to your real self during sleep. So I fully agree. I think we have a lot to discover, and you have a big mission here. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks to all of our listeners and anyone watching us on YouTube. Thank you. If you like our videos, click on like and subscribe to our channel, also to our Spotify account. I'll see you in the next episode. Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.